Hey, hello, leavers and believers. So good to welcome you back to Leaving Hillsong. My name's Tanya, and wow, what a fun-filled week it has been. Welcome aboard. I'm super excited that you're here. We are up for a lively one today. The former global grand leader of the universe, Bobbie there, has been traipsing around America while the other one is at home making videos and reflecting. And really it came to our general attention that some very strange things had, even for Bobbie, some very strange things had been coming out of her mouth, a number of things, and also out of her Instagram or wherever she's posting these long, florid posts about who actually knows what. So I grabbed our resident mental health consultant, James, who is a frontline practitioner with lots of years of experience, I forget right now. And, just what is going on here? There are some very strange utterances, strange for anybody in the community. They would be considered quite strange, but particularly even in the circumstances of traditional evangelical Christian life-centered dogma, which is just, Bible stuff. We're going up and away here with Roberta Lee. So this is a bit of a chat, under the New South Wales Mental Health Act where I live, there are basically 3 conditions where somebody would be scheduled, and that's if they're a danger to themselves, a danger to someone else, or a danger to their reputation. So you get someone like a Mercedes, it's all 3. Then again, the reputation stuff's kind of questionable. It's for people that would behave in ways that they otherwise wouldn't, and, would embarrass themselves were they not unwell. So I guess we'll keep that in mind and jump into this episode of Case Notes, A Visit from the Ancients. Hey, James.
Hi, Tanya. How you going?
Good. Thank you so much for taking time out of your incredible busy working week to talk about, this situation before us. Look, I'll just jump straight into it. As we've discussed, Bobbie Houston has continued to make these very long posts. She continues to speak at events, and for the average citizen, I think it's been pretty mind-blowing because, I just think about other celebrity examples where the husband's done things and the entire family goes quiet. You don't hear a thing. You might get a lawyer saying something, make a statement, but they certainly don't sort of carry on business as usual. Her husband's about to go back to court in 3 weeks' time for the closing arguments of his trial for concealing child sexual offences, and she's giving these speeches about what a hard time she's been through. And I'm doing that little monologue in case people aren't sort of up to speed. But, you know, the theme seemed to have been that it's been a really hard time for the Houstons. I mean, there's bits and pieces that I'll play. So, yeah, I was wondering if you know, we could grab your take on it. What have you seen so far?
Well, I suppose for me personally, and, you know, in that professional sense as well, the more time goes by, the more I listen, the more I listen to, the more I see, the more I start second guessing myself, because I'm realizing it just gets worse and worse all of the time. You know what I mean? I suppose initially I had some strong opinions and criticisms of them, but they just become stronger the more time goes by. The more rope you give them, the more they just about hang themselves. The bigger the hole they keep digging, the stuff that they say, the rants that they make.
Oh, I mean, we have discussed before on this podcast, but, you know, possible kind of traits of different personality disorders that they might show. I think with young Roberta here, we've talked about narcissism, that kind of lack of empathy stuff, and histrionic stuff as well. I'm just looking at a little portion of what she posted a couple of days ago, and she says, so the month of June now awaits us. The defamation and quote unquote character assassination is at an all-time high, which remains both astonishing and disturbing. We will walk into what awaits us with hearts fixed on Jesus, the one who walks ahead, beside, behind, the one who resides within and is supreme judge and jury on so much of what has been 2022 and the last 25 years. The 25 years would be since, so she knows
1998 or so, yeah.
When the first victims of her father-in-law, Frank Houston, you know, first came to light. That's when people officially first came forward and reported Frank for sexual abuse. That's when, sorry, some of her husband Brian's charges date back to the knowledge of where they're looking at the concealment. Some of them begin, you know, around that time. So she's aware, but it's defamation and character assassination. On that note, I have remained constrained by the Holy Spirit. Lack of comment or perspective is not because words nor perspective are lacking. So she thinks she's not talking much. Trust me, this woman is not remotely confused by the tempestuous winds of narrative and nonsense. We have remained constrained because we care about the well-being of people. The antichrist naysayers and self-righteous will say what they will on even that comment, but what they say ultimately doesn't matter. Only what the Lord says matters.
There's a lot going on there. There is a lot going on there, isn't there?
Please help.
Yeah. All right, so we probably need to rewind a bit, because the crimes that Frank Houston committed, and there are likely lots, probably the more you dig into, the deeper you dig, and then start asking the question just how systematic his crimes were.
Brian says that, you know, they'll never know. So they'll never know the extent of it.
Probably the thing that's also concerning, and, you know, backtracking a bit as well, is that the organisation and those affiliated with them, you know, Assemblies of God, Australian Christian Churches. I'm going out on a limb here. I'm not going to substantiate this, but we know that there have been a lot of them who've actively conspired to cover it up. They think that they don't answer to the laws of the land. They think, or they use the excuse that they only answer to God. And therefore, in their own minds, they think that it's okay to deal with this stuff in-house, not by law and not through a legal system, which does not permit these crimes to go undisclosed. Moving to the Houstons, especially this particular person herself. Okay, now how do we sort of tear this apart? Because
narratives and nonsense. It sounds like a children's book. Narratives and Nonsense by Bobbie Houston.
They love that word narrative, don't they? But I mean, my
The
take
new
on
one.
the way that she and he use the word narrative, it's really just a deflection. It's actually being used. They talk about this thing as if it's apart from themselves, the narrative. You know, when we're criticising
Yes.
them, they talk about it as a narrative, but there's no ownership. They
That's
will,
interesting, yeah.
they will not own what they've done and who they are. They refer to it as this separate entity or this separate amorphous thing. It's the narrative. But come on, what's the pure essence of this? There have been crimes against children, heinous crimes. It's been,
Yes.
they've covered it up. They have responsibility. They need to take ownership.
Yes. Yes.
Personally, professionally, I think they're incapable of it. And I'll cite a bit of a quote. You know, I was out on the road a couple of days ago with a colleague of mine. He's a senior psychiatry registrar, and we were talking. You know, it was a really good conversation. You know, we've been dealing with some really heavy stuff, and it was kind of a bit of a personal supervision and reflection session with a bit of humour while we drove around. And you know, I said, you know, we were talking about concepts like compassion fatigue, you know, when you're helping people constantly and there's so much trauma and there's so much grief and there's so much unwellness and the pressure of dealing that. And we, in a therapy framework, we have to be on top of that. We have to have processes to be able to process our own responses and reactions to other people's challenges and suffering, so that we can provide a service and not be crippled by it, and also not fall into the trap of making it about us, right? So it takes its toll personally, it does, but you have to be able to work through that. And this guy said to me, look, you know, we don't have to always feel, you know, emotionally when we're working with people who are going through that. We need to be able to serve and provide a service and help and do what we're professionally able to do without falling into making it about us. Okay, so there's, hear me out here, there's a bit of a point. And I said, yeah, look, I've got some compassion fatigue at the moment, but I know I can do it. You know, and then I said to my colleague, you know, sometimes I ask myself, am I a this, am I a that? I think, God, am I a psychopath? You know, whatever. You know, we were joking about it by this stage. And he said to me, you know, James, the psychopath never asks themselves if they are a psychopath or not. That's not a question that will even come into their narrative, you know. Whereas the rest of us, we're like, you know, if we do have a conscience.
Stressing out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet, that's so interesting. And yet, Brian was happy enough to go and tell Savannah Guthrie on the Today Show that Carl was a bit of a narcissist. So they know all these words.
Yeah. That was a very interesting kind of exchange, though, because I think you probably had the clash of the narcissist. You had the upcoming young narcissist who was a challenge to the global, senior, worldwide, whatever the bloody hell he was, you know what I mean? So from this side of the Pacific Ocean, and they start digging up the dirt to then throw the American narcissist under the bus, you know. So it was basically, I think it was two narcissists butting horns. I know we digressed, but what do you reckon?
I'd argue there's a narcissist Olympics going on at the moment. A lot of them, battling it out. me. Yes,
they've got no insight to even kind of realise what they're doing.
Okay, so this is a huge question for me, that these people have enough money to hire the best PR and advisors in the world or close to it, and yet they continue to present themselves as they do. Is it this incapable kind of thing that you're saying, or is it because there's the rest of the world, and if they keep singing the same song and sounding like they're the good guys, well, they've still got, you know, the rest of the world to infiltrate? Maybe there's, you know, one born every minute. And
you know, a major fall from grace in those type of circles, what actually enables them to pick up the pieces and start making money or having a career again? Is it by going down the contrition and repentance line, or do they keep fighting and protesting their innocence and their righteousness and all this sort of stuff. I don't know what works better from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, and again, a big question beyond, would you not, because I'm just thinking on that incapable thing, is that part of a personality disorder? Would you not reach out to victims, cut your losses, make an apology, and show everybody how brave and great you are to be, to reach out and do the right? I mean, that could be good for marketing and the brand too, couldn't it?
It could be, couldn't it? Because, I mean, really, if we want to look at a little biblical passage said by someone pretty special, by their fruit you will know them.
Right.
Yeah. So, those of us who are looking at things quite critically, I think, well, you're just showing your true colours. And I mean, it's even hard enough if people are genuinely displaying compassion or philanthropy, or are they just doing it falsely? I mean, it's even hard to know whether someone is acting from a position of conscience or not. Is it really, do we need to know? I don't know, but they're not doing any of that. They're not trying to look compassionate or understanding or show any level of sympathy for those that have been hurt. All they're doing is just, it's kind of worse than that, Tanya, because I think there's kind of a condemnation that's coming from their mouths.
Yeah.
It's worse than that. And they're saying that, God's on their side and God's the judge and the courtroom of heaven and the this, that, and the other. What did we say here? The Antichrist naysayers and self-righteous. I guess that probably means you and me. Yeah.
Right away.
Right away. Will say that they will on even that comment, but what they say ultimately doesn't matter. Only what the Lord says matters. So, well, hang on a minute. So is this God the God of all, or do they have exclusive?
Yes.
Yeah, exclusivity with this God,
And that's the end of the story. If they say God said it, then that's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else needs to be explained. It continues to just seriously blow me away when you hear stories of them. Well, I sought God. This is what God said. So don't argue with me.
And the same old things that has happened through, the church history age and whatever. If you've got someone in power, authority, or a body or whatever saying that they're doing what God commands, well, that's all right. People can be burned at the stake and a whole lot worse because, they're saying that God's sanctioning it.
Now, I mean, it gets a little more colourful than that in terms of, it's not just this kind of denial of the reality of what's going on. Your husband's just pled guilty to a drink driving charge where he blew an alcohol content of, in our system is 0.23, which is in Australia would be nearly 5 times the legal limit.
5 times the legal limit, yep.
In California, it's nearly 3. There's no shame, apology, regret, acknowledgement of the damage that alcohol and drunk driving. He could have killed somebody. No. Nothing.
No, it's I'm trying to remember that what he was saying. Something about a narrative again. I remember him saying, and so deflection. I don't have a drinking problem.
It gets more kind of convoluted. Bobbie talks about having God moments in the last year or so. She's had 60 or 70 or 80 God moments, and then not one of those moments did God ever say, hey, think of the children. Let me just play you a little thing towards the end of a Fierce and Free with Bobbie Houston. Some church platformed her recently.
Always something more grand to be acquired, to be learnt, to be entered into. So February, driving on the freeway, having emptied our home of 30 years. Our home of 30 years. I mean, people do that, but I mean, it's like a lot. There's been a lot on top of a lot on top of a
They're
lot.
fleeing to California
And, you know,
for life.
Yeah, and getting rid of the Xenia suits.
Driving and I'm having this conversation with Jesus on the freeway, and I'm like, it's kind of joyful, but I'm sort of like, oh Lord, I can't believe I've got so much stuff. Like, how can I have so much stuff?
Because you took
know,
everyone's
30
money.
years. And then I'm like, Lord, I should be like
And you
Mother
couldn't stop
Teresa. I need to be
shopping.
like, I'm driving. I need to be like Mother Teresa. She only
Oh,
had
yeah.
a shoebox.
Don't let
You're
me
a
Right,
forget
lot
that
like
point.
Mother
shoebox.
Teresa.
And then, typical woman, emotion.
Nice.
And then I got overwhelmed.
Nice.
I'm being
Mm.
honest, girls. I got overwhelmed, and then I'm like, and you know what?
Mm.
It's like Jesus was there as I'm on the freeway, but he wasn't alone. He had some other people with him, like maybe the ancients.
And
of old,
Megildo, Xenia.
been there, done that. And I'm like, I sense it, like they're smiling at me, like they know something I don't know.
Mm.
And I'm like, trying, and then I hear this voice that says, I know.
No.
I know when you've, no, I wrote it down. Wait a minute. I have to get it right.
It's so, it's just, it's, I, bit more.
It was like this echo from heaven. Yes, you've lost much, but in order to gain what? I felt heaven say that. You've lost
Beautiful.
much, but in order to gain what?
Well, Gucci, Chanel,
It's like
what?
the crown
Hugo
of
Boss.
an overcomer. The crown of
Who
an
is
overcomer.
heaven? Heaven is
There's some of you
whispering.
in this room.
Heaven is whispering to
Listen.
her.
In Christ, you've suffered loss, and it's your loss, and it's very real, and he sees it, and he sees it.
It's
You know
all
what?
about her. So back
Hmm.
so back to just Jesus is driving down the freeway with Bobbie, and he brings in the ancients. What is going on here? Now, the best I can do with this is, you know, as an ex-literal Bible-taking person myself, I mean, I had to call up some of the people at the Hillsong Accountability and just go, excuse me, is that not summoning the dead? Is
Yeah.
that not sorcery? Is this not witchcraft? Like, what is going? Like, even Bobbie does come from a Tongan background. She's from Tonga, and I don't know. Like a lot of Indigenous cultures have ancestors and stuff. I don't know if she's mixing that up.
Okay. So there might be like a pre-existing kind of a belief system or something that
Really stretching the cultural link here.
Mm.
It's an odd choice of words, but please tell me what the difference is between this and someone who presents as acutely unwell and thought disturbed and hallucinations. The angel of the Lord, I'll find the clip, has been visiting her in the night and speaking to her.
First of all, Tanya, can I ask, do you think she firmly believes this, or is it crap? Is it crap, like a method acting or something? What do you make of it? First of all?
Don't you think it seems to be very sincere?
Yeah, look,
But
I'm thinking so. I think she believes it, and let's call it a delusion. I mean, it's a fixed false belief. It's firmly held by her and them. It's unshakable. In spite of evidence to the contrary, they see it as a reality. And it's, look, I suppose, I think it's a shared delusion within their church or denomination or whatever you want to call it.
He doesn't speak like this. Brian doesn't talk with this fanciful. I mean, if that's legit, she's literally saying that her comparison was that the angel of the Lord went to see the 3 Hebrew boys who had to go through a fire. So
Shadrach, Meshach, and
Abednego there.
Abednego, yeah. That's the one.
I mean, who are these great heroes of the Bible for standing up against wickedness or blah, blah. And
it's grandiose, though, to even compare yourself with them, for one. Because if we look at that Bible story, they apparently took very clear stands against, quite significant oppression, at risk of death. Whereas, the Houstons are just guilty of large scale, what do we, all the expenditure, what do we call that, all that racketeering sort of stuff.
Yeah, money laundering and misappropriation.
Money laundering. So crimes. So they've committed crimes.
Tax evasion, fraud.
Now they're comparing themselves to some kind of mythological, biblical heroes who were prepared to get burned alive for their faith. And highly grandiose. It's narcissistic, but I think she's delusional.
Because that's what I'm saying, because he doesn't talk like that. Brian is very much about poor him, and he can't believe everyone betrayed him and treated him so badly. But he's not having God moments. He's not getting visits in the night and stuff.
So he's playing the victim card.
But what's that about? What's that extra kind of Harry Potter stuff going on there? Or like the ancients and Jesus is... I mean, poor Jesus, right? Can you imagine? He's like, she doesn't shut up. Like, please don't pray as much. So she's having her chat with her, and look, her interpretation of Jesus or whatever, and that, they start there, and then he's brought his mates. So she's accusing God of bringing dead spirits with him for her, and also, this angel of the Lord, I think there's only the one. So the idea is that God in heaven says, hey, you, archangel, whatever, would you mind going and checking up on Bobbie Houston in Seattle, or where she is at the moment, or stop by the Bondi apartment and... No, but that's it, So what is that? What is that? Who are these people? So he's just a garden variety narcissist and a bit malignant or something.
And I think he's probably, and he'll have the narcissistic injury going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which happens then?
Well, it can be quite devastating for the person with the narcissistic personality disorder when they sustain this. They're because there's this perception that they love themselves, they're fantastic, they're larger than life, but really deep inside, they're quite fragile. They're quite shallow. They don't have a really well structured or integrated sense of self, and they're easily wounded. Now, he's been wounded because he's been caught out and his world sort of largely crumpled. And look, these people can be in their own way vulnerable and at risk when that occurs, but hey, it's often self-inflicted anyway. She's sort of come out more putting up her dukes. So she's in fight mode. He's probably in flight mode to a degree. Maybe the perceived attack or assault on him, she perceives it as one on her as well.
Is that how the shared psychosis stuff works?
When we talk about something that's a folie à deux in psychiatry or shared delusional disorder, it's when two, or I suppose even more people can share a strong, powerful delusional belief. But usually when there's the two people that live this kind of delusion, there is the primary deluded person, and then there's the secondary person who's sort of become incorporated in it, and they start to adapt to it and believe it themselves. But it starts with one person who's got the delusion.
My recollection of that is that it can happen with, say, a couple who had, and particularly in the old days before we had technology, a couple that had migrated or ended up in a country where they don't speak the language, and perhaps he's the main communicator, and then if he's unwell or has these false beliefs, then that the other person can take on and hear the voices too, and they can you'll probably have the first person saying, can't you hear it? Can't you hear it? I can hear this. And, then the other person, yeah. And they may not, but then they start becoming incorporated in it themselves. And they, I don't know, are they convincing themselves? Is it just a compensatory kind of a thing? And then they eventually find themselves fully enmeshed in it. That isolation thing. Yeah. So somebody's, and these churches isolate people.
Right. So why don't we have a look at let's look at this church, this Hillsong thing. Yeah, highly exclusive, a lot of power, a lot of influence, but they've got their own speak. They've got their own beliefs. They've got their. I think it's crap. In hindsight, I think it's all largely crap. A moment of vulnerability. I reckon I've been deluded in the past. That was with that whole church thing, the Hillsong thing, the Pentecostal thing. I realise in hindsight, God, I was deluded. I actually believed stuff that just wasn't real. I'm talking about some basics in the Bible. I mean, that's probably another conversation. What makes something dogmatically sound? What makes something a religion? Why is not the whole lot bull dust? That's another conversation. But Hillsong and the Pentecostal church, they've got their own kind of their own world, isn't there? There's a worldview, there's a belief system. They can say all of these things and people take it on board. They believe it.
Yeah. Language, everything,
Yeah, look, here I was thinking, if I did this, God would do this for me. Or if I gave this, God would give this to me. I mean, I found out the hard way that it's bullshit. Never really got anything out of it myself. They all got it. They got their lavish lifestyles, but we were the ones paying for it and slaving our asses off to provide it to them. It just doesn't work like that. But it's a delusion. When you believe it so firmly, and you've got maybe other people, family and that, they're saying this is not a reality, but you can't see that.
I mean, that's just so hard with spirituality and faith and love, and what is a delusion and what is seeing the best in people or giving someone the benefit of a doubt.
I mean, look,
huge conversation, obviously.
How do we define it? A delusion is technically a false fixed belief or belief system. It's firmly held, but it's usually inconsistent with our societal and cultural norms, and there's evidence to the contrary, but the individual or the people cannot see it. I mean, it's a bold statement, but I would say that generally the Hillsong thing, the broader Hillsong thing, there are delusions involved in that. There are false beliefs.
Definitely. I mean, definitely. There's, not everyone can be a millionaire who, invest in kingdom builders. End of story, right? What?
Yeah. But then, when you're kind of led to believe that it's all about God and God's doing this and, all this sort of stuff, these kind of agendas are spiritualized and you adopt this belief that God's doing it, but God had nothing to do with it.
I got in trouble the other day. It's a little bit off topic. I got in trouble the other day because I thanked somebody really, really helped me with some stuff with the pod. And, we've had some tangible outcomes. And I went to say, thank you so much. If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have got this far. And they said, give the glory to God. And I said, well, God didn't go out of his way to sit down and talk me through stuff. You did.
Yeah. No. God doesn't put tomato in your sandwich or make a cup of tea for you. Hey, it's, it's Tanya, it's the other person. It's, I remember years ago, I went off on some missionary activity and I couldn't afford it at the time. And, I remember my grandma saying, love, you were saying that the Lord provides, the Lord provided for you, but the truth is we were the Lord to you.
Well, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It's a little bit all over the place, but there is this clip, again, from the same speech that Bobbie made. Please, James, if I could get you to have a little listen. I mean, there's just so many different things that she says that, okay, look, this is the only way to do it.
Yeah, I'm being real. This is the real world, people. So what do you need to hear? What could I share? And when I was preparing this word for this gathering, this part of the world, but Lord, what can I share with them if I was just to give them 3? Do you need to hear first? Do you need to hear perhaps? You need to hear that the angel of the Lord, I don't share this one lightly. Do you need to hear that the angel of the Lord is your angel of the Lord? The angel of the Lord in Old Testament, Daniel, the Hebrew boys, fiery furnace, thrown into a fiery furnace, persecution, at the hand of society, at the hand of a very secular, wicked Nebuchadnezzar. Do you need to hear that the angel of that same angel of the Lord is your angel of the Lord. Because I heard that on day 4 of a debacle season. It's probably day 400 and something now, but on day 4, I woke, and I don't say this lightly. I don't say this lightly. I woke with the angel of the Lord, his hand on my face. And I felt him say, enough now. Enough now. Not enough as in disqualified. No. Enough now. I will take this battle from you. I will take this battle. No, I'm not making up words. I will take this battle with others. And I felt in our circumstance, I felt the Spirit of God pick our bleeding, bloodied, slaughtered bodies off the field with our swords held high. And I felt him pick us up and carry us off the field. Not disqualified. And he said, I will fight this with others. And you know what? Some of those others have taken a while to wake up.
And that's where the nasty comes in.
Yeah.
That's where that question you asked before about does she believe this sincerely? There's this vitriol right beneath the surface.
Vitriol, yeah, vindictiveness.
Threatening. I don't say this lightly. I don't say this lightly. My favourite one is the old I'm not making up words. Because what were the other 2 hours then? Is she, you know, people that go like, to be honest, and I go, yeah,
Well,
what were you doing before? Can you please tell me what happens to her in the night? I mean, what's...
she's getting visitations from...
What is that? Well, what is it?
Yeah.
Or is she just telling stuff that...
All right, so could be a few things going on here. You know, you never get a straight answer out of me, don't you? As you know.
Yeah, well, no, I'm sorry. I know there aren't clear-cut answers to, you know, the range of mental health presentations that must come before you. So, yeah, I don't know. Go.
All right. So have you heard of the terms, one, hypnagogic and hypnopompic perceptual disturbances? All right. Have you ever had the experience when you're drifting off to sleep and you have this, you're not quite asleep, but you think you hear something or you have an experience, but it's in that kind of twilight state where you're falling
and you kick your leg
asleep.
and stuff,
Yeah. Same thing like when you're waking up. You know, I remember as a teenager, I thought there was someone in my room, someone malevolent, you know, and they were talking to me. And then all of a sudden I actually woke up and I thought, oh, no, there's no one here. That was just while I was waking up. It was part of a sort of a dream and altered conscious state. So hypnagogic perceptual experience or disturbance. Hypnagogic is going to sleep. Hypnopompic is when waking up. So, you know, if something happened to her in the night, there could be this kind of, you know, nonsense kind of stuff happening in that kind of twilight state that, you know, feeds in with her belief system and she thinks it's real. Or, I don't know, did she dream something? Or is it really, again, this whole delusional false belief sort of thing? And they're great, you know, I mean, they're great, aren't they? The Penties, and as a former one myself, plucking an isolated verse out of the Bible and making a whole bloody, here's this word, narrative around it, right? Or it could just be complete BS, you know. It could just be she's made this up so she can do an impressive gobbledygook sermon to be vindictive to people and justify their own behaviours or whatever.
Tell me about her bruised. I mean, the only response that I want to yell at her is, I mean, you know, please, where there is any mention of anybody else apart from them in that so they're in this terrible, they're on the battlefield, bruised and battered,
wounded,
randomly. Did they just arrive there to wake up there one day? Like, there's no mention of victims that might be bruised and battered and bloodied and need a prayer and maybe would like a little bit of an angel.
I like the Bible verse that, you know, if you suffer, it should be for, you know, if you're persecuted or whatever, it should be for your faith, not because you've meddled and caused trouble. You know that one? Yeah.
Well, pray for those who persecute you.
Yeah.
and love
Yeah,
your
exactly.
enemies.
There's not a lot of that going on, is there? But yeah, they're claiming that they've been victimised, that they're martyrs, that they're suffering for their faith. But we
that's the
all know
word.
that the reason why they've come unstuck is because they've committed wrongs, or they've tried to cover up wrongs, and they've been exposed.
Which is a wrong in itself. And it's not like, you know, there was that bad comment one person made one day on air and they've been thrown out and misunderstood, which happens to people. This
Yep.
is, you know, one criminal appearance for a high-range DUI from him, current court matters, criminal soon yet to be decided of a very serious nature. And then there's, the whistleblower documents outlining all their extravagant, disgusting expenditure at other people's expense.
Misappropriation of funds and money laundering, and
You haven't mentioned the women that made complaints against her husband of a serious sexual nature that is still kind of out there in the open. I mean, the chutzpah, the height of this woman, like what is this? And she needs rescuing, and she needs the angel of the Lord to battle for her. Oh, it's a local court. It's only the Downing Centre. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, look, you know, even the theologians, you know, more conservative theologians would have a problem with that kind of speak, wouldn't they? You know, if we talk about, you know, Old Testament theology and stuff, you know, there's this notion that the angel of the Lord was like a pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus, or that's what
there's some of that.
Yeah. So kind of like she's not even theologically sound, you know, because I mean, hey, if Jesus then apparently came later on as the, you know, as God incarnate, that kind of put the angel of the Lord a little bit out of business, you know. That's been and done. Yeah, she's not biblically or theologically sound, even according to their own.
So this angel retired at the end of the Old Testament?
Well, I mean, that's my understanding of it,
Okay.
you know. Look, I've done some theological and biblical studies myself in the past, and that's kind of, he's had his day. He's got his superannuation now, and
just retired in heaven and stuff, kicking back.
Yeah.
Well, we don't see them again, do we, in the New Testament?
No.
They're busy in the Old Testament wrestling people till dawn and stuff, and then
yeah.
I'm just sitting here wondering if these are, you know, they start off as simple beliefs. You have this relationship with an eternal God. They're quite extreme beliefs. And I wonder if this stuff escalates over time until you mix it all in with heaven and running the world.
Look, I think that's the kind of for those that have come out of it, and, you know, it takes a hell of a long time to come out of it. You know, there's a lot of stuff to be undone, constantly questioning what you used to think and what you used to believe, and think, oh my God, I used to actually believe that, and now it's rubbish. It's just kind of a self-sustaining bubble, isn't it? That whole system, you know, it feeds itself. It's like the cow that drinks its own milk, in a way.
Well, remember we were talking about before. So the belief system is that you have this absolute connection with God. He can speak to you, like how she's chatting to Jesus down the freeway again. And then what God tells you is truth. And, and that's the terrifying part for me is, you know, that these people can say, I went and sought God. God said this in the story.
What about the one, Tanya, where, you know, like someone's, I don't know, they've got a fair bit of money, or they're going around the world trip, or they, you know, and they say, oh, the Lord's blessed me. And
end of story.
What about some other person who's quite devout in their faith and they're working their ass off trying to provide for their family, and they're really doing it tough and they're struggling? What? So God's not blessing them?
No. And that's where that whole, you know, Protestant work ethic, Pentecostal prosperity stuff falls down the old, you know, if hard work were blessed by God, then women in Africa would be billionaires.
Yeah.
So
I know. That doesn't cut it with me. And I mean, what are the kind of the more important things at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
Love and compassion and doing good, and, you know, resisting the temptation to be selfish and you know,
can't lose it, Jesus. I can't lose it. I can't start crying on a
Hang on.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? It's so delicious. Just a sec. Bobbie has described having this warring mind. All right, let me just see what do we got.
But he will never require what you are unable to bear because he loves you. He is good shepherd.
Okay.
And if it is going to crush you too deeply, he is there. And I say that because in January, my heart was breaking yet again. And I have to make it light. Wendy, just give me a couple of minutes. I know you don't really care. But honestly, sorry, that's the worst thing that a guest speaker can ever say is give me a few more minutes. Hallelujah. Please just,
So quickly, I think that day 4 of the debacle she spoke of is when Brian had to resign, because if we're on day 400, that takes us roughly through to May, a year and a bit. Her heart's breaking in January, I'm guessing because of the whole, that little trially-wily thing that he had to go to in December.
I have have you ever done that? You've got a face down on the bed.
I don't know if we want to do
down
this.
The bed, and someone is massaging you or giving you a treatment.
I've got bad images in my mind.
I got overwhelmed with emotion. It's like something triggered me and it just came down like a truckload.
It's called a massage.
And I'm lying on the bed and I'm thinking, I can't lose it. Jesus, I can't lose it. I can't start crying on a massage bed.
So she has some awareness.
I'm having a breakdown. And then he'll bring out all the crystals and the Reiki.
And then she'll get demons.
It'll just become terribly awkward. So I'm having this wrestle with my face down the hole. But I'm dying. I am actually dying.
So she knows Reiki and crystals are not on,
Feel Jesus,
but the ancients are.
With his face right down by the hole.
Now Jesus has come
Which massage parlour was she at?
Up around. He actually said, can you do this for me, Bobbie? Can you do this for me? As in, I know I am asking a lot.
Yep.
But can you do this for me? And what my spirit sensed was, if you can't, if this is too much for your heart,
Will you go to hell?
I will lift it.
Oh.
I will lift this burden. And the minute
So why ask her?
the voice of God says, can you do it? You go, yes, yes. And the minute I say yes.
I mean, it sounds like a great massage. Now, this is an exact, no, I've had that happen in acupuncture and stuff. You start crying. They don't care. They don't care. But she cares what the massage person thinks. A lot. And begs Jesus. And then Jesus comes to chat to her and says, she isn't facing execution in the morning over her face.
No. It's just a massage table with, who was it?
Well, I don't know where it all starts and ends.
Angel.
Just call me Angel
of the morning.
So, why does she get to say that she had an auditory or visual hallucination and that she can now make decisions from what? And why does Jesus, how does she know it's Jesus? I don't know. Sorry, I'm just it's just.
I don't know. Maybe it's a different entity.
Well, it could be one of the ancients. And then and then it's all good because God said it's all good. And what? And God feels sorry for her or something. Jesus is like, I know I'm asking you a lot to put that Amex card down, not ask for money anymore. Just for a minute. No. Or what was it? What, does she have to go back to court in June? And I'll be there. Or what?
Yeah. Again, this is just James thinking out loud. Perhaps those in these type of churches or from these kind of backgrounds can quite easily delude themselves. Where does it come from?
She's got 50 years of it.
Yeah.
Been out at 50 years.
Yeah. Yep. Belief systems are held very deeply, with, our opinions they can change, they're not so deeply held. Our personal values are fairly deep. It takes a bit to kind of shift them, but beliefs are firmly held. Otherwise, they're not beliefs. So
how do you get to the point where you're having these kind of ongoing conversations? And
maybe it's an axis, Tanya, but there's this kind of the time and the intensity of the narrative or the whatever you want to call it, the system, the belief system, the theology, the stuff that's promulgated and preached. I think the more you have it over the longer period of time, and a typical cult phenomena or behaviour is when a cult is falling apart or their leaders are, falling from grace and the whole thing should really be falling apart. The adherents, the devotees, are more likely to hang on even more tightly.
Okay.
And to realise, hang on, this is crap, we're out of here. The majority will initially hang on to it even more tightly.
And it's fantastic how she then takes up. Obviously wonderful. A lot of people meditate, go to a massage, get a 60 minutes, lie there, not allowed to look at your phone, and meditate, mindfulness, whatever you have an experience. She translates that and jumps onto stage and goes, "This is what God told me." When that happens to you, so when I share my delusion with you, you make sure you do it like that.
Yeah. You better believe it.
Like
you better believe it.
And that's, I guess, how it all happens, right?
Yeah.
Now you get a room of people to acquiesce and kind of.
I wonder what happened after that. Was there an offering taken up or something? I don't know.
There's 2 hours of it. I mean, I'd rather sit and watch Titanic again or something if I'm going to torture myself. I'm sure there'd be an offering at some point. She does say goodbye to grab that. Jesus gets in his Thunderbird and drives away or something. Hang on, let me just find this lovely bit. Where were we? At the end.
And I'm like, try it. And then I hear this voice that says, I know.
Okay, so just this bit here once.
So some of you in this room listening, in Christ you've suffered loss, and it's your loss, and it's very real, and he sees it. In Christ, we're exchanging it for the crown of an overcomer, and that is profound. And I felt that I heard that from the Spirit of God in heaven, and all those ancients who've gone before us saying, yeah, you feel like you've lost a lot or you're losing a lot, but look what you're gaining. Paul said that I suffer it all but loss. I count it all but loss for the prize of the high calling in Christ Jesus. And then, of course, God is a restorer. So let's never forget that. God is redemptive in everything he does. Stand with me, girls. Yeah, I just went a couple of minutes over. The bang. We go out with a declaration in Jesus' name. If any of that tonight,
made sense at all,
has resonated with your heart, just put your hand on your heart.
And then she puts her hand on the right side. She grabs her left hand. And that's fantastic.
Oh, dear.
After the 50 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? She doesn't know where her heart
is.
Her
heart is. Well, that says it all, doesn't it?
Or even how to fake it.
Yeah. Yeah. If we talk about the heart being, our culture as if we're our soul, our integrity, our, the deepest part of it, it says a lot by doing this, doesn't it?
That complete opposite.
Yeah. There ain't nothing there. I just wouldn't be rushing forward after that altar call. I'd be probably calling for the CAT team, quite frankly. Yeah, crisis assessment and treatment team. Yeah.
People wrote comments saying, thanks, Bobbie. Really needed to hear that today. Really inspired by that. Thank you, Bobbie.
Wow. I think I'd be sending about 500 questions instead.
Heaven whispered something to her. She had an echo from heaven. She has God moments. But she can't let the massage therapist see her cry.
I think it's good to think on these things and be thankful for our own sanity of sorts, isn't it, in a way?
I find her very dangerous.
Yeah.
It's strange language.
Coercive.
You see that too? I mean, she's instructing people how to think, what to think.
It's highly manipulative, isn't it?
I found it threatening.
Threatening.
She holds it,
Yep.
And I don't say this lightly, and then she waits, and it's the angel of the Lord visits me. And
there's a kind of a neuro-linguistic kind of quality in it, isn't it?
Yep.
The tone of voice, the things that are said, and the certain gesticulations. It is a misuse of power, and I think it's kind of condemnatory of people. It stops them from daring to challenge or think what's really going on here. And that's kind of another aspect of abuse that's been long-standing in some of these churches, probably all of them really. It's the threatening people that if they think, that if they dare to think, if they dare to question, that, you know, they're at risk from heaven or the court of heaven or God or the angel of the Lord or whatever it is. And it really does allow abusive persons and systems to continue in those behaviours. Yeah.
Because the presumption is, and it's easy for us to see here, but the presumption is that, you know, she's an experienced leader, she's high up in the world, she knows things. So even if I'm not afraid of the court of heaven today, I've just found out it exists. What else it might be, and what if I get visits from the ancients? What will they think of me?
Yeah. Is there also the online shopping mall, of heaven? Is that,
the limitless black Amex card?
Yeah.
Rodeo Drive, I think it's called.
Yeah. And I think Fairmont Resorts are available there as well.
Dustin, it's just unbelievable that she can show her face after what she's done with the money, let alone carry on a stage.
I think we've got to be grateful for, or just hope that there are more people who are seeing through this, you know, seeing it for what it is, you know, maybe starting to ask themselves the really hard questions about faith and belief and what it really means, and you know, maybe blowing some of these systems apart. You feel a bit alone. You think, oh, what did I believe in all this time? You know, who is this God? Is there a God? You know, these sort of questions. It's okay to ask them, you know, because if you can kind of be honest with yourself and ask the hard questions. I mean, if there really is an all-powerful God out there, what, do they not want to be kind of put to the test? Like, I mean, let's imagine something really stupid, you know. Imagine I'm God, you know, right, for example. That sounds really presumptuous. But would I want people to kind of make sure they're getting the real deal? You know, if there really is an all-powerful, benevolent God, would they be afraid of people wanting truth and goodness?
And really, if there is a God like that, is Bobbie Houston their person of choice? Like, is this the way it should be? And that's not even being personal, you know what I mean? Is this prosperity doctrine the answer? And it's just not.
I mean, on a different note, I think in that discourse of hers, she tried to compare herself to Mother Teresa.
Oh, there's a bit of that.
A good book to read about Mother Teresa, one called The Missionary Position by
Christopher
Hitchens. Have you ever read that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, Mother Teresa is renowned, is controversial, but she was very disciplined in Calcutta. But as soon as she, you know, fell ill herself, it was straight on the plane to Mount Sinai, New York. So,
yeah.
If that's not a Houston, I don't know what is.
And she didn't mind people suffering. She thought it was good for them. And they had plenty of money in the coffers. I mean, wouldn't you want to be really passing around the paracetamol and the blankets and the
antibiotics?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I just think alleviating suffering is what's required, not promoting it.
Exploiting it.
And bringing it back, exploiting it, exactly. Bring it back to these people, you know, tens of thousands of dollars a night in resorts, while there are other people who are just in dire need. I don't know. I don't get that. So, you know, it reshapes my worldview. And I'm personally glad to be out of it. Yeah.
You'd want nothing to do with that.
Exactly.
You know. Well,
hey, listen,
thank you so much.
Great talking to you. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
No
Appreciate
worries,
you endlessly.
See you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.
There's definitely a thesis or two in that. What department you would choose to do that through is entirely up to you, though. Thank you so much, people, for listening to my hands being thrown up in the air. I mean, after all, these people receive all kinds of tax benefits. They continue to, regardless of their status within that organisation. And, you know, come on. There should be a line somewhere drawn. Somewhere? No? Anywhere? As a bit of an update, there's been a little bit of controversy with that Vanity Fair documentary that was released last week and again Friday night via Hulu. Now, I've got a lot more to say about this documentary, but wow, I'd be really interested in what you guys think as well. It started so well. It began as this incredible look at power and different levels of power and how people are affected by it and how people act it out when they've got it. And it was really going so well. And then the most recent episodes 3 and 4. 3 is really heavy. If you haven't seen it, it is, you know, at least, 75% about child sexual abuse. And then episode 4, to me, is like a Coca-Cola commercial for Carl Lentz and his son-loving family. And it is absolutely not anything that those of us who, well, as far as I know, those of us who participated had any idea that Carl Lentz was even going to be in this thing. And then when it came out, we held hope against hope that it was going to be like the first 2 episodes went, some kind of analysis of power, but it's turned into some kind of evangelical rom-com about this, you know, this couple that went through a bad patch, and this story has been told, you know, really deliberately to end with a really positive light, with these people walking off into the sunset. And yeah, Carl made a lot of statements, as did Laura. They've taken, you know, responsibility. They're saying the things, they've done the actions. It's you know, it pulls on all the right heartstrings, and absolutely these people have suffered in their way. It just seems that this Vanity Fair has made that the theme, as if somebody put in for 4 fantastic hours of real raw emotion about a guy that went through a hard patch, but now he's back with his wife and kids, and he's going to do his darndest to make the world a bit of a brighter place if he can. It's out of control. You know, the damage that he has done, that the entire organization did on the east coast of the USA, just kind of fades into obscurity. We sit and have lunch or whatever with their beautiful house just by the beach, and, you know, beautiful family. So yeah, going to have a bit more to say about that in the future. And there's a bit of a warning for those of you who don't want to feel like they got set up again to celebrate the bad guy. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for being you. Thanks for your messages, your support, as always. Helps me so much to keep doing things and carrying on and making the kind of trouble that we need to make. As you go through these various exposures and conversations, you know, make sure to be kind to yourself and take time out. There's no rush to watch these things or consume any of this material. It's not going anywhere. So just look after yourself, pace yourself. Look out for the person next to you. You don't have to look after the whole world. Just, you know, be kind to the people around you. And we'll all just keep leaving Hillsong. And we'll talk very soon. Bye.